Today's episode of How Not To is not going to actually talk about how not to do anything. It's going to instead give you some tips that are going to supercharge your team so that whether you're producing or whether you're a project manager, your team wants for nothing and gets the job done with a lot of excitement to spare. Stay tuned. I think you're going to enjoy this one.
I like the title of this episode, Taking Care of Small Things, because it's actually the one thing that I never actually have to really think about. I think about them, but I don't really have to carry them. And that's because, Brian, I have you. And as a producer, you are always looking out for the smallest of things. That's either something that we have to watch out for, a pitfall, or it might be a landmine, a pothole, or something that literally just makes the day easier and less tiring at the end of the day. So all these small things, I love this. I'm going to let you kind of carry the weight on this, but I've got a few things to add to it too, because as a recipient of all that, I have my own viewpoint on this, but this is a really important topic for leadership.
Well, don't think that you're not as, if not more important in the equation. So it really breaks down this way. If you're doing any kind of project that exists anywhere outside of your four walls and even inside your four walls, you have to be looking at the small details so that the people you work with can look at the aesthetic details. And the reason for this is simple. You work with a business. They are under stress. Just by having you involved, it is a level of stress which you have to learn how to reduce. How do you reduce it? Well, let's look at the flip side of the equation first. You're bringing in a team who knows nothing about that business. They're under stress as well. Stress plus stress equals disaster. So the best thing you can do is really look at your teams in two different ways. You can look at your producer and you can look at your project leadership. The way I look at it with you is I may have some notes and some ideas about the aesthetics, but the aesthetics are you. They're your final call. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. Doesn't matter what I'm thinking. I've communicated those to you, and that's your call because you see what's available based on the parameters. For me, it's the 10,000-foot view diving straight in through the windows. I have to first understand the business. I then have to understand the facility. Then I have to understand how to communicate that business and that facility to my team. I walk in the door. I see every single outlet. I see where the windows are. I try to figure out where the light's going to be at any given point of the day if we're going to be filming A, B, or C in all these different locations. We're moving throughout. Is it a union shop? Is it a non-union shop? What does that mean to me? What does it mean to my staff? Can I articulate that? Once I put those parameters in place and think about every last possibility you could want on that location, I have your answers. You don't have to go looking for the head of the company. You don't have to look for the anybody in the supply chain or anybody who's technically versed at what OSHA may want. I already have that information. If you come up with something, chances are I can tell you automatically whether or not we can handle it. If you give me something that we can't handle while you're working on the aesthetics, I'm still working on trying to find out what that is. I'm still trying to find out if we can get around certain limitations that we know we're not supposed to get around. But that's not up to you. I tell you what can and can't be done. You stick to your guns and you get the best aesthetics you can be knowing the rules. I can come back to you because I'm working on seeing what other rules we can sort of shimmy with during the production, and then we move on. Very often we'll find, you and I have both found that because of the way we do things, teams are very often, maybe opposed to something at the beginning, but when they see how delicate we are with the environment, understanding we're in a real working environment, they tend to open up everything to us. But that can't be your call. You have to worry about the aesthetics of where the rules exist at the moment we walk through that door. And when the rules change, I can bring them to you. So it's two leaderships. I'm bringing you information, but you're telling your team exactly what you need out of that location.
Yeah, that's a really great summary of it. And I think one of the things that's I joke about, not having to think about those things because I have you. And while that's true, and you can't have been in business for, this long and not see all the small details. And, even before you're even on location, you start to think of different possibilities and things that either could go wrong or how to make something just better, better experience mainly for the client. And it's interesting because there are so many different scenarios that every single project is very different. If you have, you mentioned things like, knowing where certain things are and, is it a union shop, all that. If it's a storyboarded project, let's say, and the storyboards had to go through complete prior approval, that's a different type of shoot. You're still looking for some of these details, but if you're in a manufacturing facility that runs 24 hours a day, they are not going to stop a line for you to be able to have everything pristine for your storyboard and all that. You have to catch as catch can. And those are the type of filming environments where this particular thing is super important, because having that walkthrough, that location scouting session where we're walking through and, you know, Brian is capturing all of there's some overhead, extensions over here, and he's seeing where some of the safety protocols, and he's watching where some of the lines are on the line where you can't go past. So he's already kind of formulating a plan with that. Versus, let's say, a very structured shoot where it's a storyboard, you're capturing specific scenes or specific times. In those moments, the types of small things are going to be very personal items. Things about, how to make a client very comfortable in that scenario. Make sure that all their answers are questioned, or make sure all their questions are answered. Make sure that the team has everything they need to accomplish each of the shots in the storyboard. But these are kind of those soft skills, I think, that really create, and the leadership. It's not just a producer. It goes all the way down to even the folks who are part of a team. They can take on a little bit of that leadership role too. On the flip side, by not sort of stepping over the protocols that you've set in place. If they can be a part of the solution versus creating a situation, that's a huge part of it. So it's a two-way street there. But I love these. This is great soft skills. Yeah.
It absolutely is. But when we look at the breakdown, the reason why I break it down into two different camps is this solely. I don't need to tell everybody the exact whys we can't do things. I speak that language. I speak safety protocol. I speak all that. Not everybody on the team absolutely needs to do it. They just need to know that when Brian says, for safety reasons, we're not going into A, B, or C, they get it. It's not well, I can handle that. It's like, it's not about you. It's about the location. There's micro details within all this that the team just doesn't need to know. So having a team rely on me to get the recon and to sort of figure out a plan and know whether or not they need to bring the butterfly. Do we have shore power? Do we not? There are times we do walk in blind because under best circumstances, we're told A, we get there and it's B. Mm-hmm. The beauty of that is I can go off in one direction. I used to say Legolas running Lord of the Rings, rather, running over the mountaintop. It's the same idea. I can run in one direction and see what I can deal with while it's a moving target, while you folks get to do something which I admire more than anything. You get to dream the big dream. And that's where the leadership skills pop in. I don't look at the guardrails, and neither do you, as limitations. I look at them as the absolute playground of where we get to exist. Even if it isn't storyboarded, and even if it is, there are things about guardrails that make you have to be more creative and think very differently. And if your team knows that they can only be in A, B, and C, and they trust that that information is there for a reason, then it frees them up to use their imagination of what they can do sort of inside those boxes. Mm-hmm. And it's joyous to watch somebody say, well, wait, why don't we try this? We haven't done this before, but we can do this here because of A, B, and C. It's like, yeah. And that's celebratory. So you have two leaders, but within that, if you're not giving leadership opportunity to the people you work with, then you're failing outright, just as an employer. But I want to be a super employer. I want to be somebody where I tell them something and they know in the back of their mind that there's a reason. And they know that if there's any possible way of getting access to a cherry picker, or if there's any possible way that a generator can be hauled out, or if there's any possible way they can shut down part of a manufacturing line, I've already asked the question, or I'm in the process of letting our clients see through proof of our performance how low impact we are on their environments. So I don't need to share the details. I just need my team to understand I'm on it. I get you. I admire what you do, and I'm going to clear the path so you can run we'll throw metaphors left or right, so you can run the ball all the way down the field. That's the goal. And if you can do that, leadership from your individuals rise to the surface. It's when people stop trusting each other that you've done a horrible job in leadership, because they won't give you their best either. They'll just wait for directions. They'll just take directions. They'll fold their arms. Well, why can't we get up on the catwalk? I'm safe. You are. But if something falls off of you into the production line, you've just contaminated $500,000 worth of merchandise. If you fly that drone inside of this warehouse without knowing the air currents above in that final 10-foot gap near the ceiling, because it is a microclimate up there, you can crash that drone into $10,000 worth of merchandise and cause a liability. So my team gets that. My team knows that. You have always gotten that. And you have always told me what your wishes are. And I think I've always been able to give you everything you wanted and then some, solely by knowing the environment.
Yes, and knowing the people involved, because that's the other part of this too. So it's a lot to unpack there, and it's funny because, well, there are, again, so many different scenarios. The most challenging ones are manufacturing facilities, and I think that a lot of times, like, production teams have to, regardless of your role on a production team, you could be a PA. One of the greatest things that you can start to do is to really understand how a business works, just in general. Doesn't even have to be that specific business, but just understanding what's at stake for a business, I think is one of the biggest underlying sort of it's a foundational skill that if you can get that right, then you'll understand why so many things have to happen on set. And understanding that manufacturing that's going 24/7 in a facility and what's at stake for them financially if something goes awry with that line because of something you did, that is not a good end to that project. And then the other part is safety, like the cost of safety for an organization. They have safety officers in place for a reason. The sheer magnitude of the expense of dealing with an injury is unreal, and you have to protect. This is where protecting your client comes in play. Now, there sometimes safety is pushed to a specific level, and they, especially for an outsider, they don't want you anywhere near those things because they think you're perhaps a cowboy. And there have been others who've gone through it before, and usually there's a rule for a reason, because somebody decided that they were just going to go up and do something without permission, and everything went wrong. But the beautiful thing is, if you understand these things, and when Brian says, I will get you these things if you give me your wish list, it's because he's building relationships. When we're on location, he is building relationships with the people and showing the utmost of respect. And the way we work together, and for our teams, is the same. We will always ask a second time just to make sure that they're comfortable with something that we're about to do. Or we'll ask us, like, hey, can we move the camera just ever so slightly this way, or that sort of thing. We include them into the decision making, and the relationship is built pretty quickly because there is a respect for what they do. It's not well, we're here to film, and so you have to do what we need because this is about your film. And it's not those airs at all. Like, it's a joy to be there, and it's amazing that we get to take part in this. And building that relationship, I think, is a huge part of the joy we have in doing the work that we do. Because then all of a sudden, guess what happens? They're like, hey, you guys wanted to be on that cherry picker, right? Well, here's how it would work. If we can make this happen, let's do it. And then we do everything in our power to do exactly as they asked us to do it. And next thing you know, we're on a cherry picker getting the shot that we wanted. So all of these small little details when it comes to working with the client, making sure they're comfortable. And here's the thing. When we're on a location, whether it's an office, manufacturing, whatever it is, retail, we actually have 12 different clients that day, because we have our, if the CEO is president, we have the president, we have the CEO. If the marketing person or, communications person that hired us is there, they're our client. And the others who are the clients is every single person that works there that we're interacting with. Because the greatest thing you can do, if you take care of them, those small little things that you do for them, that gets back. That becomes the talk of the entire facility. And let me tell you, that's where the strongest of relationships really build. Now, there's the other side of this too. When you mentioned about the team knowing, when you say we can't do this or this is what we have to do, and we understand it, we do have conversations over time. And hopefully it's a team that you've worked with, quite a bit over time. But the one thing that's really important is when you're going into a location, giving them an understanding of what's important to this client and also what's important to the people that we're going to be interacting with that day so that they at least have a base of knowledge. Things aren't coming out of left field. There's been a lot of discussion and conversations about the what to do's and what not to do's and what to avoid at all costs. And that if they have a desire to do something, please don't just do it. And we've had some instances in the past where we've had some uh, uh, instances where an employee maybe wanted to push the envelope on something, and we had to get stern on that moment to make sure that it didn't happen. But it was a respectful conversation. I said, "Here's what's at stake if you do this," and it became very real, very quick. So. Understanding what's at stake for your client and having that respect for what every single person on that team does, from the person working on the line to the person running safety to the clients in marketing and in the C-suite. Having respect for every single one of those roles makes it such a joyful day. And that's just on that side of it. Then there's an entire side of the small things that happen that, Brian, the things you do for us on the production side are huge. Because it's a joy to do these productions because of all the work that you do for us.
Well, I couldn't say it any better, but you just talked about something. What's at stake? By allowing the division to happen, and it could be the same person who's dealing with both, and that's okay. But you have to know when things about a facility and the environment are said by one person in the team of, I'll call it the dual leadership role, the team knows it's not about running to mommy and complaining about what daddy says. And the same thing goes for the aesthetic. If the aesthetic is laid out by the other team member, it can't be about what daddy said here, let's go running out of mom. You can't keep doing that. So you work with the team and they have trust in the process. And the reason why this taking care of the small things, in both cases, it's small things that make a difference. We talked about the idea of the way we operate inside of facilities, but the same is even true on a highly curated scripted piece or a highly storyboarded piece. We go to a location. What am I always saying? We'll take it just in case. We'll bring it just in case. We'll do it just in case. I met a team that I was working with, and we were headed to parts unknown, and I had literally every last piece of equipment backed up in my car, except for a generator for the location, because I had no idea what we were walking into. That means an extra butterfly, an extra, none of it was used. But that's
Yeah,
the thing. They
but it
don't
was
need to
there.
think. They don't need
Yeah,
to think about the redundancy of the redundancy of the redundancy. I don't sleep at night. That's what I worry about. And if I worry about it, you don't have to. And if I don't
yeah,
communicate that you should be worrying about it, then you don't have to. And you can focus on just your job. And I think that's the beauty of the dividing this. Large details are shared. The small details of how you got those large details don't need to be shared.
hmm,
Because why cloud a creative's mind with every last possible detail and every last possible scenario? However, unfortunately, on the other end, that works differently. The people who are managing need to hear every last dream a creative team might have in preconception of what they're doing.
yeah,
They have
yeah,
to. So walking into a place and then walking out of it, you're gonna see exhaustion levels from people differently. You'll see physical exhaustion on one end, you'll see mental exhaustion on the other end, and it's usually the ones who are shepherding the creative space or I'll call the technical, the technical facility space. because they're constantly got 3 eyes in 3 different directions and 12 eyes and 12 different, whatever. But it creates a better environment for everybody on board when your crew walks out saying, wow, that was so cool. We got to do A, B, and C.
Right.
They knew they'd get to do certain pieces, but to be able to do A, B, and C, wow, I got to crawl inside that cement mixer. It's like, yeah.
Don't say that publicly.
Yeah. No, but it's that kind of thing. It's that idea of like, I just got to do something I never thought I would do, and I knew the parameters of this filming. That was awesome. And as leaders, don't expect a thank you from your team. That's not what it's about. No. It's about having pride and being excited to do the job that you do. And I do take it personally. I walk in and I can immediately tell you, outlet. Like, I don't have to think about it. Bathrooms around the corner for those who need it. It's that kind of thing. Oh, you need this? Let me get on that. The relationships can take care of themselves while you're setting up or while you're doing something else. That's exciting. That's the payback.
It is.
So
yeah, and then taking care of your people is the other part of it. And I know Brian, you were recently on a shoot with a couple on the crew that weren't part of a regular sort of staple for us, but they were on the shoot, did a great job. But
they did a great job.
You made sure that absolutely everything for them was, you asked them what type of, food allergies or, preferences for lunch and that sort of thing. And because you were in a place where there was absolutely nothing available where you were very remote. And so you came with an entire spread of absolutely everything, including waters, all of that, so that everyone stays hydrated. And those are those little touches when you keep your crew fed is huge. Water breaks, coffee, like all those things are so important to keep our energies at their highest. They're small details, but they can be missed. And it's amazing. We have projects where we have to work with our clients very closely on scheduling. You can create schedules on your own of what an ideal thing is, but let's say if you're working in a hospital or some of these locations where there are a lot of things that are happening during that day and you have to be exceptionally flexible. Sometimes they'll supply that first draft schedule and it's like so jam-packed that there isn't even time to go from room to room, and there's certainly no time for bathrooms, there's no time for eating or even drinking water because everything is so packed. So you have to then separate it, and you have to be the advocate for your team and saying, look, we absolutely need to inject these breaks in here for you to get the best out of our team. You and I come from a world where we will literally push through and just get it all done, but we can't expect the same of everyone who's on a set, and it's not the right way to do it anyway. I was like, take your break, get some rest, clear the mind, get something to eat, get some energy, water, hydrate. All of those things are so huge. So not only taking care of your client, but also being a fierce advocate for your team to make sure that everyone is taken care of, so that you're in the middle and both sides are walking away from you with massive smiles on their face. And you just sit there and give a nice big sigh for a job well done, which is great.
Well, and I'm gonna put one more piece out, and then for me, I've set up my piece on this. I can go on for hours or cut it at any moment, but I'll give a practical of why this matters. It's not just the details to get the project done. It's the details of knowing the place you're walking into so thoroughly. Mm-hmm. And it's not about being able to pass yourself off as one of these people, although I think that's what you and I aspire to make sure that we know it enough. Somebody comes up to us like, oh, that's right around the corner and down the hall. Yeah. We were, and this is where it comes in, knowing an environment like the ED department or ED, it's a little redundant, ED, knowing that you're walking into a chemotherapy area, whatever, of a hospital, knowing really the patients that are coming in, coming out, what happens on that floor, etc., are tremendous. You and I were out of this state working for, we were on a medical floor, and there was an emergency situation that happened. And I remembered this very specifically because we had already pre-prepped them. we'd already told them, hey, if this happens, you don't worry about us. You do what you have to do, and we will reschedule and we'll come back and do whatever we need to do, but we will disappear. And that's exactly what happened. They had a medical emergency on a floor that we were on. We immediately felt the pre-vibe before everything hit the fan. We knew something was coming because we knew enough about what happens in that particular facility. Our camera, our sparse lighting, because you don't really want to bring lighting too much into that, but our gear immediately tucked into, I think it was like a janitorial closet where we broke down in silence, quietly moved, got our stuff out before they even knew that we were out of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And we got thanked for that. Like, you guys disappeared. You okay? It's like, we knew what was happening. We want to give you and your team space to operate. No pun intended. We needed you to have it. And they're like, thank you. It was a horrible situation. We were operating on an emergency situation. It was horrible what had happened. And the last thing we needed to do was think about you. So thank you for taking that off of our plate. Small details. Know where you're going, know what it's about, know how it normally operates, and have a plan with your team so that if things aren't normal in the operation, no one looks, feels, or sounds disappointed. They come at it with a sense of pride, being able to move quickly and efficiently out of the way to let people do what they do in their lives. So it really does extend beyond the production itself. And if you're not doing that, you're not taking care of the small details. You're taking care of larger ones. Small details.
Small details. And I'll just wrap it with one quick thing is that I think when you focus on the small details, it uncovers the most powerful tool that can happen on set, and that's a smile. So if you have your clients smiling, if you have the staff of your clients all smiling, and if your crew is smiling, you will absolutely end up with the best production environment that there is, period. And you will love every minute of it. So great topic, Brian. Thank you for bringing this one up. I know this one's near and dear to your heart, but this is a good one. Let us know what other, this we can consider, it's kind of a soft skill, right? Working with people and environments and that. If there are other things that you'd love to hear us talk about, or some things that you've been sort of questioning or thinking about, let us know in the comments below. But thanks for being here with us. We are having a blast doing the show, and we love that you guys are with us for the ride. So thanks a lot, and we're going to see you on the next one.
Stay safe, stay healthy.